Welcome to Raging Moderates. I'm Jessica Tarlov, and I'm joined by my friend Tim Miller of the Bulwark today. Hey, Tim, how you doing?
I'm thrilled to be here with you. Much to rage about, I guess. So thanks for inviting me.
No, open invitation, especially on particularly ragey days, which I would say the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination certainly qualifies as the temperature got hot really, really fast. After this happened, we still don't know who the assailant is. Door cams doing a lot of work. So people who have them, that's a very good thing. A few images have been released. But we heard from President Trump last night. He talked about the rhetoric of the, quote, radical left leading to this. We've also been hearing things like this from the right.
We're in a war. The left has been saying put a bullseye on Trump, a bullseye on his supporters.
Charlie Kirk's a casualty of war. We're in this country. We are.
So that takes the temperature up, right, to another level. I won't say unexpected, but another level. And I was curious how you're feeling about it, because I am deeply disconcerted, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm unsettled. I was shook by yesterday for a lot of reasons. I remain that way. This is one of the reasons. I do think that their violence begets violence. There will be escalating tensions here. It doesn't even kind of. I think this is why we should oppose political violence in all forms, because there are going to be bad actors out there. Like, it doesn't matter to them what the motive was of this. We don't know what the motive was. Steve Bannon's buddy, Kash Patel, who we had on his show a million times and is now the director of the FBI, hasn't found the perp, has tweeted several times about how he thought he found the perp. He's live tweeting an investigation. I haven't seen that from an FBI director before, but he hasn't found the person. So they say they're at war, but they don't even know who they're at war with. They don't know who fired the shot. And so when this stuff happens, there are going to be bad actors that seize on it to try to escalate it. To try to grab more power for themselves when it comes to the government. That's something that I'm worried about. And so, I'm obviously very upset by those statements. I also get frustrated by, I think that not among the leaders, thank God, of the Democratic Party, but you see some on the left that have been online, that have been very casual about this, talking about it. And talking about Charlie Kirk and not having lack of empathy for Kirk because Kirk didn't have empathy for others. I can't abide that, because this type of violence hurts everybody. Obviously Charlie the most, and his family and his kids, who I feel awful for, but it hurts everybody. It's a direct attack on our whole country, our whole system, the whole system of liberal democracy. If people have to fear for their lives to speak in public their views, no matter how appropriate or noxious those views are. So it's been a really ugly 24 hours, and I fear that it's going to get worse.
I totally agree with you. I tuned in for a little bit to the Free Press live that they had this afternoon.
Oh,
Barry Weiss
great.
was hosting. Ben Shapiro was the first speaker, and I was home for that. So I was listening to him, and he said he can't speak outdoors ever again. He said his wife was always the one who was more concerned than he is, and he walks around with a ton of security anyway. She's always saying, "Are you wearing the bulletproof vest?" He's like, yeah. And she's like, "No, you really need to be wearing it." And he said, "Now you can't go outside," right? Because they can't secure the perimeter, especially if the perimeter then has to be 200 feet back. But I agree with you. I mean, being in the public square and having that kind of debate is fundamental to who we are supposed to be as Americans. And we've seen a clamping down on that, especially under this administration that's, suing everyone left, right, and center who says something that they don't like. And frankly, most organizations have been cowering in the face of that, which only feeds it further.
Just really quick on the Ben Shapiro thing, if you don't mind.
No.
We don't live in a free country if you can't speak freely without security, right? Like, and so to me, this also ties into the gun conversation around this. I know that obviously there's a lot of worry about the rhetoric, but I have just, the older I've got, I don't know, maybe it's having a kid, the more hostile I am to the gun culture in this country, and I think there are a lot of people who want to own guns, believe that's their right, and I don't want to take their rights away from them, but we have to create some kind of limits and structure so that we can live in a society, right? So like they would say, oh, it's not a free country if you take my guns away. Well, we're not in a free country. If somebody like Ben Shapiro says he can't go speak outside, like what kind of freedom is that, right? What kind of freedom is that you have to have a bulletproof vest and a team of security and limits on where you can go? And so, like, to me, I know that everybody's sick of talking about that, but I would love to try to pivot the conversation that way. And maybe there's an opportunity for Democrats to talk about that issue in a freedom framing that can help reignite that, because I hope that resonates with people. I think a lot of people right now feel scared to do scared for their kids at school, scared to speak out on social media for they're going to get condemned right and left, scared to go out, now
Well, some
to
people
events.
should actually be a little bit more scared to say some of
Maybe.
the things that they've
Maybe
said on
that's
social
true.
media.
That's a fair
I'm just
point.
looking
That's
at
a
some of
fair
these
point.
tweets saying like, that we're outdoors, essentially, with what you just said. And with
Yeah,
this administration also, I mean, not only the content of what they said, which I found repulsive, but what's going on. They've told you. I mean, you have Republican Congress people saying we're going to surveil, everything. We're going to be looking at every post. I mean, people who are on visas right now are scared that they're going to go back
Yeah.
and see that they had, a Hillary Clinton sticker somewhere back in 2016, 2020, like Biden fine, whatever it is, and now it's suddenly a problem. So
Or a legit critique of Charlie before yesterday, legit.
right,
There's plenty
which
of
there
things for
were
critique
plenty
about his
of,
past
and which
rhetoric.
he
Yeah,
welcomed. That's the
he did
thing.
welcome it.
And I know Charlie. I talked about this earlier.
Same.
Scott and I were discussing it. I have debated Charlie. I've seen him in all sorts of different contexts. He has always been nothing but nice to me. And his views, not okay to me. And now that
He had
this
some really
has
bad
happened,
ones.
he had some really bad ones. No Civil Rights Act.
I had people sending things to me about the time where he was talking about stoning for gays. And I think if you actually really looked at the context of what he's trying to say, he was trying to make a point. But even if he was authentically for stoning for gays, and my response to that is, okay, well, as a gay and as a podcaster, I don't want vigilante stonings, because I think that's going to start to go both ways, right? So just because he had a bad opinion, I don't want him stoned, because now we move into a place in a society where people are solving their disputes with bullets and with violence, and like that's not a society that we want to live in. And I have plenty of disputes with plenty of people across the board, and there are plenty of people whose views I find noxious, like no shortage of those, frankly, in our country right now. But like that's part of living in a free country.
But this is going to be, I mean, I didn't necessarily make fun of people, but there was the I'm leaving the country when Donald Trump got elected, and there's this like slow roll of it. And what you identified, the gun violence problem, is the number one thing that people, I think, certainly in our demo with young kids that we send off to school every day and that we want to be able to play in parks outside, think about when we consider what our lives look like, and that I'm panicked about, do I have the right air tag and the right stroller, right? Because I have two girls, one's going here, the other one is going here. To your point, that doesn't feel free to me. And I'm not saying that, Europe has its own problems right now. And I lived in the UK for 6 years. I wouldn't be going back to London right now. And you look around and you think, this is not good. Like the Western project is really suffering right now. And if people don't want to wait, I mean, to your point about guns, because I talk to my colleagues about this all the time and say, you can't take my guns. I said, I'm not taking your guns. I'm asking you to wait 48 hours. That's it. Like that's what the left is asking of people.
Yeah. And look, we're asking for basic rules, the rules you have around licenses, rules around other stuff, like to try to put some limits on this. So no, I don't look, I hear you on the Western Project. And I think that there's a lot that right now, and I think this is most acute on the right. So I do not want to create an asymmetry, but we've obviously seen violent radical left action as well. And I worry that we went through this period in the post-war period that our parents brought us into, that like there were certain rules and norms around debate. It wasn't perfect. They were bad. Obviously we went through a bad time in the 70s and the early 80s, but like we had a period of time for about 30. Yeah, we had about 30 years where people set inside basic practices of respect for people that you disagreed with and how to handle this and what the rules were that we had to live in a society. And those got very mocked, right? Like these are all like, oh, these elite institutions that have let us down, and oh, norms and comity and all this stuff. It's so eye rolly now, on the left and on the right, particularly on the internet. I kind of am like, how many of these do we have to scare people back into? Maybe we had some points in the 90s. Like maybe there was a point for to have the assault weapons ban. Maybe there was a good point that people should be able to speak publicly and work together with people from the other side and not treat them like enemies, right? Like there are a million things you can talk about, and I worry that that's all totally unraveling, and I don't really know how we stop it, before it hits rock bottom, and I think that we're on a really bad trajectory right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that watching a 31-year-old man get a bullet into his neck while sitting in front of 3,000 college students is the rock bottom that causes us to go in a different direction, but I worry that it isn't. Another story, which is lighter, certainly,
Okay.
but also serious as well, because it's about, Kamala Harris's book is coming out, 107 Days.
Yeah.
The serious part is that we lost the election, not that she has a book coming out.
Not a light topic for me, actually, but it's, I guess, slightly lighter than vigilante murder. But
I think in the ranking, we're still going to. Yeah. But yes, I too am still upset, and thinking about what we could have done differently. One of the excerpts was revealed in The Atlantic. She writes, "It's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra, as if we'd all been hypnotized. Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was reckless. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision." So I was surprised to see that she was going at Biden that way. And I thought that she probably had gotten some kind of permission structure from him to do that because they seem so close. But what's your knife
I doubt it. I don't
assessment?
Show me the lie, I guess, is my assessment. Like, I think Kamala was put into a really horrible situation by President Biden all the way back from the time she was picked. I think that if President Biden did not trust her because of whatever, the debate or anything other reason, he should have picked someone else.
Yeah.
Especially at his age, it was incumbent upon him to pick a VP that he trusted. It was very obvious that he didn't trust her from the start. We all heard about that in private. That leaked out into public too. And I thought that his treatment of her, I thought that it was his obligation, and I wrote about this at the time and said it, that once he decided to not run again after that horrible debate, it was his job to bring the vice president into the Oval Office or to Delaware, to wherever, and say, "Kid," or whatever he called her, "do whatever you need to do. Right. We have to beat this guy. The stakes are too great. Throw me under the bus. Separate from me. If you need me to say that you opposed my border strategy, I'll say it. I'll call up the Atlantic and tell him." You know what I mean? Like it was his job to put his ego aside and say, "I let us down with this debate. We need to beat this guy. It's on you now." And he did the opposite. That he was very sensitive, by all accounts, in all books, like very sensitive, didn't want her to separate from him, had to have the first night at the convention, and I think it led to her struggle with her answer on The View about what she'd do differently, which really nagged her. And I don't know, could she have won had she differentiated from Biden? Maybe not. We'll never know. But it was obviously something that she should do at the time, and she was limited by him. And I think that her frustrations about that are legit and accurate. On the other hand, she was running for president, and I maybe she should have just done it and said whatever. You know what I mean? Like maybe she shouldn't have. Maybe she should have put those aside and said, "Hopefully, we can repair this relationship."
Fix this once democracy
when
is
I'm
safe.
the president. When I'm giving you the presidential Medal of Freedom.
That your library is funded and that you get the Medal of Freedom or like whatever we need to do.
We'll fix this later. So anyway, I think that it is a little bit on her as well. But 90% on the Kamala side, that the story that she's telling seems accurate. And
well, you see that in those anonymous quotes that like Axios is publishing about from the Biden aides that are basically just like F her, like she's been a loser since 2019. And I'm thinking like, you are not going to restore trust in Biden by doing that. But, shout out for Ron Klain, who is handling this really well and saying like, I feel terrible that she feels this way. And we should have given her more of the spotlight. And we should have given her a couple of minutes in big moments to introduce the president or to show that she was competent. Because most people had the impression that she wasn't. But
I agree. Shout out to Ron Klain, and to all the people trashing her on background, put your name on it or
Yeah.
shut up. I'm so annoyed by the Biden people.
Also, what's
that
going to
really
happen
let
to you
us down.
now, right? Like, you're done.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess your consultancy is open
So
where you're trying to get
disappointing.
people to do the same shit they did before, which isn't going to work. But that was so frustrating because I think even with these hurdles, she probably could have found a little more daylight for herself and hope for
agree.
us of a better future.
Ugh.
On that uplifting note, thank you for joining me, Tim.
Anytime. We'll do it again, maybe on some better topics next
Yeah,
time.
I'll get better. Well, yes. No more shit
Hopefully the
takes.
news gets better.
Yes.
The news gods.
The news.
All
I
right,
mean,
we'll see you.
it'll be different. Maybe on an Epstein day.
Thanks, Jesse. Sounds
Thanks.
great.
Hey guys, I'm fundamentally uncomfortable with all of this, which I've told you before, but it would really mean a lot to me and Scott if you would subscribe to our channel. We're trying to do something a little bit different here at Raging Moderates, not only grow a new channel, but put forward a more moderate point of view at a time where everything feels like it's either extreme left or extreme right. Also, leave comments. We read them. Scott reads them more than I do because he's obsessed. But we'd love to hear back from you, and please do subscribe.